Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get going. Please don't run, you're fine. Well, hello everyone, welcome to Closing the Confidence Gap, our Sweat Lodge experience for June 2022. Everyone's gonna be 5 pounds lighter by the time we leave, that's the goal. Please feel free to get drinks and snacks anytime throughout the presentation. We're very informal here and we want everyone to stay hydrated. But anyway, I'm Kate Conley. I am a principal at Architects Fora, and I'm the 2022 chair of the AIA Silicon Valley Women in Architecture Committee. Thank you, Sherry. I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a great turnout. We're so excited to see you all. I know there's a lot of summer vacations and COVID scares happening right now, so thank you for coming and attending our in-person event. The inspiration for this event actually came about at our year-end retreat at the end of 2021. After a year of virtual webinars during COVID, our group had a really strong desire for confidence and inspiration-based events, and so much so that our theme for this year is building confidence, because we're architects, get it, building confidence. Yeah, we're really proud of that, guys. But we emerged with 3 goals for the year: to support underrepresented groups in our profession, which is always our goal, so women, minorities, and young architects and designers especially; to reestablish opportunities for one-on-one mentorship, and to encourage women at Silicon Valley firms to join the WIA. And so was born this in-person confidence building event with opportunities for those informal one-on-one mentorship opportunities that we so sorely missed. And we hope it encourages you to join our group. Earlier this year, we hosted an online career building workshop for students and emerging professionals focused on network building, resume and portfolio development, and interview skills, which brings us to this, our flagship event for the year, bringing 2 speakers together to explore 2 great books that aim to unlock some of the puzzle pieces of women's confidence in the workplace, both how that confidence is perceived by others from the outside and how we internalize that confidence ourselves. Now, this event wouldn't have been possible without the partnership of the San Jose Women's Club. Thank you for this incredible, beautiful venue tonight. I'd also like to thank our events director, Sherry, who planned this whole thing, really. Thank you, Sherry. Mani and Seppi, who did incredible social media outreach, Chris and Veronica for their unflagging support at AIA Silicon Valley and all of the logistics and sign up. Deborah, brand new to our committee, who just stepped up, thank you, who said, it was like, I'll do food and drinks. We're like, we're keeping you forever. And Paula, who kept us on budget, and Arnold for lending us his photography skills. And of course, Pam Anderson-Brule, who connected our group to both of tonight's speakers. She'll introduce both of them to you in a moment, but I would like to introduce Pam. It is safe to say that our WIA committee wouldn't exist without Pam, and my firm wouldn't exist without this committee. Pam was the first woman architect to achieve AIA fellowship in the history of AIA Silicon Valley. And she formed this group to make sure that she wouldn't be the last. My business partner, Leah, is a former WIA chair, just like me. And this group gave her the confidence to strike off on her own and build the skills that she would ultimately need to run operations at our firm. This same group of women also dared me to dream for more. So when the opportunity came to team up with Leah and take over ownership of our third partner, Sarah's firm, I was ready to say yes. And through it all, Pam was always there for a chat or a lunch, ready with some advice or just a really strong BS meter. And usually resulting in a recommendation to read the confidence code. And she didn't do this just for me or just for Leah. She has done this for countless architects in our area, and I'm sure will continue to do so. Pam is the founder of Anderson-Brule Architects and recently announced her firm's successful transition of ownership to the next generation of leaders, once again setting the bar for empowerment of architects and designers around her. Please welcome Pam.
Wow, now I have to speak after that. I guess I will stand up. It's so hot, I can't figure out where to. I might stand over. We can pretend these are fires and gather around them because it's actually cool air. You know, one of the reasons I asked these lovely women to join us today, and really this evening's about them, is that as I look at what's going on in the world, what's going on with women, we're still not equal, and it's actually reversing rather than moving forward, you know. And I think that we don't have equal pay, we don't have equal promotion. You know, we're considered a liability when we're young mothers, or even mothers at all, whereas men are considered actually a benefit. There's actual statistics that they get paid more as they become fathers, and that we get treated very differently as we become mothers. So I was just reading about Title IX today. It's in its 50th year, and it is nowhere near, in fact, functioning the way the law has written it to be. So we're not done. I'm not done doing what we need to do to make sure we provide women with what they need to have the confidence, to have the composure, and to have the courage that Kate talked about, to step forward and do things that they want to do. Not that somebody else wants you to do, but actually that you want to do. So Kate did a great job explaining that I founded the WIA because I was, you know, when I got my fellowship, there was a young woman that I'd been asked many times and I didn't get it. I'm like, I don't need a badge or a cape or anything else. No, I was raising a child and so forth. But she came to me and she'd come back from an AIA convention. She goes, I need you to go get your fellowship. It was Crystal Sanders, for those that know her. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because we really need you to stand up and be an example. And it's like, I'm not, you know, it's like, okay, you know, I guess I'll do that. And so I went through this journey of getting my fellowship, and it was a great journey. I have to say, having to go back and rewrite about, you know, 30 years of my career and document it all and think about it, it was really a good thing to do for me personally. And when I got it, I was, you know, thrilled. My daughter graduated the same year I got it from high school. So she had her cap and gown thing and I had my cap and gown thing. It was really meaningful. But when I got back, I found out that I was the first woman in the history of the Silicon Valley, or, you know, Santa Clara Valley at the time. And my reaction was, you have got to be kidding me. You know, it's just like, it wasn't like thrilled. It was, all the men are going, aren't you amazed? I'm like, no, it's awful. So anyway, this is really about not just the fellowship, because that's a thing I think that you know, it's a personal decision to do. But I have to say that that I am now not alone. And now we have two fellows that have joined me, women. Sharon, take a bow. And Britt, so who's not here tonight because she's, you know, running the AIA practically at this point. She just won her election. So I think that we can do anything that we want to do. We don't have to do what somebody else wants us to do. And so, you know, my history, my background is learning that, you know, spending a lifetime learning that. And Kate, I think, or Kim asked me to tell you a little bit about that. But so I managed to leave home at age 14. I ended up getting a scholarship because I wrote a penciled letter to a school asking for one when I was in 8th grade, and they actually gave me one. And so I went off to an all-girls boarding school. Up until that point, I did not understand why one would be a girl. I was a tomboy all the way. I didn't understand anything. My sister was like the opposite of a tomboy, and that's probably where I got it from. It's like, why would you want to be like that? But in that school for 4 years, I learned the value of being a woman and how to be a confident woman and how to, you know, how to not be worried about what people think or what people say. And then I went to architecture school. So I graduated from Cal Poly with 4 women in my class, and the rest were men. I think there were 400 graduates. So talk about going from an all-girls school to, in essence, an all-boys school. That was shocking to me, but I was ready. You know, I didn't care, you know, frankly, what they thought. So I think there's a lot we do between the young ages and 14 to 18s to ourselves that is sometimes, and I know you'll talk about this, but sets the patterns and behaviors. I then left school, Cal Poly, graduated, and immediately went to a program abroad, but I had enough units that I actually didn't have to come back. I graduated. And so I ended up in a foreign country. I didn't speak the language. I spent the summer, decided I wanted to stay. I got invited to study at the Beaux-Arts. because I was in this program that was one of the prizes for. And then I spent 4 years learning to speak and just express myself, really. I was in the school, I couldn't understand a single thing the teachers were telling me. And so I spent 4 years doing that. And when I got back from that voyage and that United States, it was like so easy to talk. You know, it was so much easier to express myself. And I haven't stopped talking since. So that's why we know that. So I think, you know, I started Anderson Brulé at a very young age, pretty close to after getting back from France. And I will say this, that I was deeply unhappy in the way I saw people being treated in the profession. And I figured there had to be a better way to do it, but I had almost no experience. I was very young in the profession. But I did it. I took a leap in 1984 and I started a firm with my husband, who is an interior designer, not an architect, but they'd always confuse us. And that has gone on. So, 38 years later, I have now sold all of my stock in the firm to the legacy of the people that have worked there for years, which was my dream when I was 29 years old that would happen. I'd never had it any other way. So, write it down, dream it, do the work and the rigor and the planning. It's not easy, but it tells you that it is kind of when you're in the tough stuff and when you're breaking through these barriers and when you're living in foreign countries and you can't even communicate, that's where you learn the skills. You learn the skills when it's hard and not when it's easy, but you learn them when you're doing the thing that you're passionate about. So I'll stop there and I'm going to introduce Kim. And I'll apologize to her because I was actually working in a job site with jeans on when this was sent to me and I didn't see it. She got him going, did you send me that? She goes, yes. So I'll do a little teeny bit of reading, but I've known Kim now for quite some time. I don't know, what do you guess?
Probably 18 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so a pretty long time. And I have to say she's one of my heroes. I've watched her run the city, run the economic development of our city, and invited her to speak about confidence quite a few years back before pre-pandemic. And it was so well received, we decided to bring her back. She has had an incredible and fulfilling career in making community and making difference in community. And she worked for a time as in a consulting firm called SRI. I have a feeling it was very male because of some of the comments you've made, and dealing with collaborative economics. So planning, economics, development. She is co-author of 2 books: Grassroots Leadership for New Economies, How Civic Entrepreneurs Are Building Prosperous Communities, and Civic Revolutions, Igniting the Passion for Change in America's Communities. So, she's about changing communities, changing the world, and that's really where her passion is. And so impressive. She was very, very involved in Google coming to downtown, and such a huge, incredible enterprise that was for the city, and a successful one to bring them here. So I think my favorite thing I know about her is that she, in fact, is not retired, although she left the city in April of 2021. Her words, I may steal them for my future, are regenerating. She is, in fact, regenerating. So she's, in the age of, okay, we've done all this. Now what are we doing? And so she's working in music. She's plays the flute and does music things. She just came back from a music camp. And then she's spending a lot of time doing the things that she's passionate about. And one of them is helping other women. So with that, I will turn this over to Kate.
Thank you, Pamela, and thank you, organizing committee. I just want to do a check. I think I should use the microphone, right? Okay. I will use it. I just want to say how special it is for me to be on this program with Kate Purmal. So one of the benefits of not working full time is that you get a lot more serendipity in your life. And I was on the internet one morning following a trail, and it led to Kate Purmal, who I met 28 years ago and hadn't seen for 26 years. When I was in my 20s, Kate started this incredible organization called Thursday Morning Dialogue. And it was just a group of women that would meet one Thursday morning a month and have a speaker and share a little bit about your life. And at that point, I was just starting out. I had no women I worked with, no women role models. And it met such a huge need. And I fell in love with her. And we've been tracking each other, but we literally reconnected 3 months ago. And what we realized was that Kate's been in the private sector, I've been more in the community sector, but we really share this strong belief that the world and our community and organizations need women's leadership. And we've both learned that confidence is important, and there are things that you can do to build your confidence to be a strong leader. And interestingly enough, the research that we've done, it fits together, it's perfectly complementary. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to give you some of the research evidence about this confidence gap, that self-doubt is more prevalent in women, but I'm also going to give you some practical tips about how to overcome that. And then Kate will be introduced properly. And what she's going to do is she's going to talk about, well, what is the underlying root cause of why we feel this way? What can we do to get to the root cause? And she's going to contextualize confidence in the whole realm of executive presence and this imposter syndrome that we're hearing a lot about and some of us suffer from. So I'm really excited to be here with Kate. And I wanted to start by saying this work has not been my career. It's been more of my personal journey. And in this talk, I'm going to talk a lot about myself personally. And I just want to say that's not something like that I grew up doing. I'm from Scandinavian Midwest culture where you don't share your vulnerabilities or weaknesses or problems with anyone, right? So, but what I've learned is that sharing your vulnerability and sharing your personal story, it builds confidence and it connects you to other people. So what I realized, I'm 57, and when I was in my early 50s, it was a time to look back on my life. And I really realized that, sorry, I give this talk like once every 3 years, so I still need my notes. So I really realized that all my life, even when I was sort of on the top of my career, I was suffering needlessly from self-doubt and lack of confidence. And I thought, like, this is me, right? Between 0 and 3, we are at our most like creative, confident self. I'm in my red tennis shoes, you know, life is great. I'm going down exploring my world. But somewhere along the line, quite young, I became hyper fearful of making mistakes. I started feeling like I needed to be perfect. I remember in 3rd grade, like getting a wrong answer when the teacher asked me and like bursting out crying. I worked really, really hard. I got myself into Harvard University. But honestly, I never spoke in class without being called on because I was deathly afraid of not appearing intelligent or like I should be there. Then I got a job at Stanford Research Institute in California. I started my work life deathly afraid of public speaking, and I had to do it. I would get physically ill. And certainly, despite all the evidence to the contrary, I never really saw myself as a leader. So while I might appear a certain way on the outside, I had all these feelings churning around on me the inside. And I was on a plane ride. Remember those? There used to be like peaceful, quiet times where you could do reading. And I had this light bulb go off. I was reading the Atlantic Monthly. This was 2014. There was this article called The Confidence Gap. And a book had just come out by Katty Kay and Claire Shipman. They're journalists. And what they did is they wrote this book to try to answer this question. Why do so many women, even the most successful, struggle with feelings of self-doubt? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share their research material based on their book and a little bit of my personal experience and my aha moments. And I'm doing this so that hopefully you don't have to have all these feelings that I've had over the years, and it'll be happier and easier for you. So the core point, the core highlight, it turns out, is that in work and in life, that confidence matters, as much as competence and character. It seems shocking, but it's true that confidence is an important leadership trait, that you have to have confidence to excel professionally. It must be part of what you have to offer. And this is a law of the professional jungle that like nobody told me about and nobody talks about. But I think from our experience, it's totally true. So what's the definition of confidence? This is the one I like. It's your belief and your judgment about what you are capable of and your ability to succeed. So it's not just simply like feeling good about yourself, knowing that you're loved and valued. This definition of confidence is really tied to taking action. Confidence is the stuff that turns your thoughts into action. So it's linked to doing. Now, the problem is there one more slide? Sorry. Is there one that says confidence equals competence? Confidence in the, maybe not. Okay, that's fine. So the problem is that in the world, confidence is often misinterpreted as competence. And this is true, right, across cultures. Confidence is mistaken for leadership development, right? In hiring and promotion, voting for presidents, perhaps, the things that matter. And that may not seem right or fair. But think of the times in your life that maybe you deferred or you assumed somebody was competent because of how they carried themselves and the confidence that, so I do think it's a real thing. So what's the difference between men and women? The research shows that clearly everyone has self-doubts at times, everyone, men included. But for women, self-doubt is more likely to hold us back from taking action. We will hesitate to try, we will opt out, we won't go for it because we're not 100% sure that we can do it. And I believe that this is a contributing reason. It's by far not the only reason. It's a contributing reason that we can control about why we don't see more women at the higher levels of professions. Now, for men, generally, and I'm generalizing, I know that, I admit that, nothing builds confidence more than taking action, right? Especially when the action involves potential risk or potential failure. Men are more likely to blow through their self-doubts, take the action, have the experience, whether they succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. It builds more confidence. Confidence accumulates through action, whether that action leads to success or failure. That is a really important point. So what I'd like you to do is just think of a time, I'm sure everyone has at least one, or a situation where self-doubt prevented you from taking action or trying something new. Do this if you can think of at least one example in your life. Maybe you're kicking yourself now, but okay, so you've been there, so you sort of know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 5 key points. There's a whole body of research that's quantified and documented about this confidence gap. And I want to say, some of you may be exceptions to all of this, and that's awesome. I have a close friend, Dara. There's not a self-doubt bone in her body, right? And I love that about her. So, and also there clearly are men who suffer from self-doubt and don't take action. So this is a generalization. So point number 1, we feel less confident in our work. Surveys have been done about how confident women feel in their job performance and their career. 50% of women report ongoing self-doubt. Less than 30% of men do. If anything, men tilt toward overconfidence. They have something called honest overconfidence. And this is pretty much true all around the world, and it gets them far in life. And it's why they will speak up on things you think they might not know anything about. I was reading in the Wall Street Journal a couple of years ago, Juniper Networks, right, I think Silicon Valley company, female executive, she told the story of they were in a presentation, they were talking about consumer products, And somebody asked the group, does anybody here have expertise in breastfeeding? A man shoots his hand up first, gets called on because he had watched his wife do it, right? The women who were mothers, executives at Juniper Network, sort of sat there while the man answered the question. So honest overconfidence. It's funny, but you can think about some of these examples probably in your life, right? So we feel generally less confident, and that leads to ridiculous situations sometimes. Point number 2, we underestimate our worth. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon asked hotshot graduating MBA students what they expected, what they thought they deserved to earn 5 years after graduation. The women said they expected to earn 20% less than the men said they expected to learn. Men will initiate salary negotiations 4 times as much as women do. When we do ask for the raise, we ask for 30% less. That's what the research shows. I think we all know this, but a few data points. Number 3, we don't consider ourselves ready for promotions. Underqualified men, the research shows, don't think twice about leaning in and going for that promotion. How many of us hesitate to apply for a promotion until we feel like we are 100% there and perfectly prepared and ready? Hewlett-Packard found that men applied for jobs when they met like 60% of the requirements. You know, I'm awesome. Who wouldn't want me? I can do 60% of the things. Women, it was more like 100%. I need to do all those things before I apply for the job. Google found the exact same thing. Women were promoted less often at Google because people were required to nominate themselves for promotions. And what a surprise, men routinely nominated themselves at higher rates than women. So Google changed this built-in bias and required employees who met minimum qualifications to apply for promotions, and they required managers to suggest employees who met the minimum qualifications. And that started to change some things. Point number 4, we underestimate our abilities. In study after study, find that women doubt their abilities and underestimate their likely performance. So this is an interesting, a group of men and women were given a quiz. And before they took it, they were asked to rate their scientific reasoning skills. So first question, am I good at science? This is a scale of 1 through 10. The men self-rated themselves 7.6. Women self-rated themselves 6.5. Second question, did I get this question right? Did I get the last question right? Men, 7.1. Yeah, I got it right. Women, 5.8. I think I may have gotten it right, but I may have got it wrong, right? So that's all fine and good. The thing, though, is the actual performance on the quiz, exactly the same. So that's interesting, but what really drives me crazy is because of that, we get to the last point here. We hold ourselves back from impact. Because the third question was, would you participate in the science competition for prizes? So having no knowledge of how you actually did on this science test, no knowledge of how you actually did, what percentage of the men said, oh yeah, I'm gonna participate in the competition, go for the prizes? 71%, right? I'm gonna go for it. Less than half of the women actually signed up to compete in the science fair. So because we women are less confident in our abilities, we often do not pursue opportunities. We choose the less visible roles. I'm going to be the number 2. We enter less competitive fields. Of course, men doubt themselves, but this confidence that they have pushes them to take action and to take risks in ways that not just benefit themselves, but I think benefit the world from their talent. So the good news is, I have learned, and I really believe, that confidence is a choice that you can make. It might be partly influenced by genetics and neuroscience and some of the things that Kate is going to talk about, but even then, it is not a fixed psychological state. That's the good news. So I believe we can learn some short-term confidence boosting behaviors, and we can also rewire our brains and our bodies to minimize those feelings that undermine our self-assurance. So we can close the gap with men. So I just kind of said a lot. I want to kind of put it back on you now to think about, if you could each think of the opposite of what you thought of a few minutes ago. Now I want you to think of a time when you pushed through your self-doubt and your fear and you went for it. What helped you through that? I'd like you to turn to one person next to you and just very briefly, each of you share that, like just very briefly, just sort of get it out. Share how, what the situation was and what got you through it. Okay, go, ready, go. I'll call you back. Oh, men can participate too. We have, yeah, go ahead. You two can pair up or whatever, yeah. You could do groups of 3 too, whatever's easiest. Just this very quick. Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, let's regroup. I know it's easy to talk about. It feels good to talk about it, doesn't it? Get it out. So if we could go to the next slide. So I think hopefully you kind of reflect and there were some practical ways you helped yourself or somebody helped you that gave you a boost, right? To push through self-doubt to action. I have sort of 9 that are my practical tips and that are based on research. But what I would like to take, we're going to take about 10 minutes and then we're going to switch to Kate and we'll have more time at the end to talk about this. Could somebody, I'd like a couple of you to share, what was it that helped you push through your self-doubt and move toward the action or take the risk? Is there an example from the table? Yeah. Your mom what? Suggested lean in. Ah, it was a book. Yeah. Good. So she specifically was talking about, no, in there, push yourself. Good. And what was the result of you reading the book and leaning in more? I was at a point in my career where I either kind of hang and just be comfortable and talk to kids and all that, or I lean in and push those books and so I push and now I'm trying to awesome! Great example. Awesome. Thank you. Example from this table. I would say I was a
having conversations with me about how we were confident and he was like, competent, presenting confidence. And I was pleasing him and I went for it.
Good. So you imitated your husband's style of confidence, even though you were probably more competent. You had the confidence and the competent. And what was the result? Awesome. And what did you achieve? Awesome. That's great. That's great. Thank you for that. Way to go. Somebody from this table. Not the man, so don't look at him. Sorry. How about you? Anything to share? Nothing? Okay, no problem. How about that table back there? Let's get like 2 more examples that could inspire the group. Good. So you were aware that you were in this like really good place and I'm just going to do it. I'm not afraid. I don't need this, whatever it is. And you got it. Awesome. One more example.
I was like you said about the 100% thing, I thought that I had already signed myself up for too many things and I didn't want to overexert myself, but I really did want to apply for the position. And I ended up doing it because of a female mentor, my teacher, who supported me and encouraged me for it, saying, you'd be good for it, you should do it. And then I ended up getting it.
Awesome. And how did you feel about that?
Very good.
Feeling pretty good about yourself. Yeah, good. Awesome. Thank you. So those are all examples. I have 9 tips. I'm just going to read them and then we can come back to them in the Q&A because I want Kate to have some time. So the first one I think I've hit on: when in doubt, act. Take the action. 2, own your ambition and your achievements. Become comfortable talking about what you want, the impact you want to have in the world, how you want to advance yourself, and tell others. 3rd, listen to the people in your court. There are people in your life who have confidence in you, who can embolden you. Listen to them. Stop ruminating. As women, we're biologically wired to rehash negative things and go over and over and over and over and over. Who's done that before? Get stuck. Catch yourself when you do that. And again, move forward, take the action. Adopt a confident pose. Everybody knows about the power pose. Like you can use your body and your breath in ways that will make you feel more confident. I would be taking the elevator up to the 18th floor of City Hall to make a presentation to the mayor, and I was nervous about it. I would literally stand in that elevator and, get myself together and then walk out the door. And I was feeling good, right? Stop comparing your inside to others outside. When we're speaking, when we're doing something challenging, we often come across much better on the outside than we're actually feeling on the inside. And recognize that everybody has those inside feelings, and often there's a huge discontinuity. Kill the gnats, the negative automatic thoughts that we all have. If you can't kill them, minimize them, shrink them down so they're like a little thing instead of like a big bubble whispering in your ear. Speak early. The research shows in a group of women and men. Men are more likely to like speak up and speak early and, you know, dominate the conversation. They'll do that in a mixed group. They'll do that in a group of women. They'll do it, right? So one thing I've learned is that I am less nervous if I have something to say. I don't speak when I don't have something to say. If I speak up early in a venue like this, I'll ask a question. I get it out there and I become a participant. That helps me. And the last one is to reframe your insecurities to the impact that you could have if you push through those. Some of you might not do this for yourself, but if you think about the work that you're involved in, the cause that you're working toward, or the role model you want to be for others, you know, reframe those things that are negative or give you insecurity for the impact that you can have if you push through them. So thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Kate Purmal. Yeah, so the only thing I would say about, I think Kate is like this amazing person. And Kate has had what I would say that not typical, because there's no typical. She was a pioneer in the Silicon Valley technology sector. So I've watched and I've heard about her over years. She was on the original team. Do you remember the Palm Pilot? That was like a hot entrepreneurial team that did one of the early versions of the smartphone. So she's been had a whole Silicon Valley trajectory of startups and marketing. And at a critical point in her career, she became CEO of a startup, which I think these personal experiences were something that she experienced, that she's written this amazing book called Composure and a workbook. And you'll talk about that.
I will. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you. What a pleasure to be here. I'm going to ask Kim to drive the slides. So I'm going to dive right in. What Kim just did is so great because it really covers the reality of the importance and impact of confidence, which is one of the elements of executive presence, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Behavior is changing behaviors, getting the courage, making that first move, speaking first in a room. That is this experience that you have that makes you more confident over time, right? It's a reinforcing loop. We all know that, right? My question was, I was working with amazingly powerful men and women who had certain elements of their executives' lives, because I coach men and women executives, where they couldn't break through. They couldn't summon the courage to do something they really wanted to do. So all of those things that you can do to get yourself going weren't working. And so my body of work was to go into neuroscience, into neurolinguistics, and really try to identify the root cause and the solutions around the root cause. It's sort of like a tree. When you're changing behavior one thing at a time, it's like changing things up at the branch or the leaf level. But if you go down into the root of the tree and you make a change, these changes can be permanent and they affect every single branch, leaf, and element of the tree. So suddenly you can make one shift. I know we've all experienced it, where something happened in your life and it made a shift, and suddenly you're like, wow, the world's a different place. I don't see the world that way anymore. That's the kind of change I'm talking about at the really core level. So the things that used to be hard for you no longer are. They're easier for you. So if you can go forward, thank you. So the core of the root cause is often manifest in what we call the imposter syndrome. Go ahead and click. And that is, despite evident success, an individual perceives their competence to be less than others perceive it to be. So there's a gap between how the individual feels and how everyone around them feels. Now, the fascinating thing about this, many of you may have taken the imposter breakthrough quiz that we put in there. So those feelings you have where you might show up with high ratings there, where you might be really sensitive to criticism or rejection, or you might sometimes feel like a fraud, like, well, how did I even get here? Those things live on the inside of you. And as Kim said, oftentimes people around you have no idea that you're feeling that way. So they see you as you going through the world, pushing through, having to, take the power stance in the elevator before you get off the thing. And they don't see you in the elevator. They don't see you like doing deep breathing exercises and running around. They just see you walk out with complete
composure, and they have no idea that that happens. So that's one of the reasons that that gap exists. Go ahead and click again. So I want to talk for a second about confidence because it's actually very related to all of the traits of the imposter syndrome that you may have discovered when you took the quiz. And by the way, if you haven't taken it, there's a handout there. It's a 3-minute quiz you can take, and it's about 20 questions, and it'll help you identify behaviors that may affect you. So go ahead and click. Okay, so there are 5 behaviors. These are the fingerprint behaviors of the imposter syndrome. And here's how they relate to confidence. So when you're a perfectionism, that's one behavior. The thought in your head is always, I'm not sure this is good enough. I'm not sure I've done enough, right? So your confidence is related to your perceived gap in the quality of the work you want to do and what you think you've done. And by the way, no amount of doing is ever going to make it right? You can keep doing and over preparing, and you're always still going to have that fear that it's not good enough. Depressed entitlement, actually, we're going to stay there, sorry. Depressed entitlement is, I'm not deserving of. I'll show you how this showed up for me. I graduated from college in 1986 as a software engineer. I was one of 3 women in my classes. I went into all-male engineering teams. I don't think I said a word in a meeting for maybe a year. And the reason was because I kept looking around going, I don't belong here. I don't deserve to be here. These guys stay up at night. They code until 2 in the morning. They play multiplayer games. They drink a lot of Coke with raspberry syrup in it to stay awake. And they don't bathe that well. And I don't know. I just don't fit into this. I didn't feel like I was really allowed to participate. The next one is, I'm not sure if I can do it. That's really related to confidence. I'm not sure I've got what it takes to do it. The 4th one, rejection sensitivity. I'm afraid someone will find it lacking and they'll make a comment, or they'll ask a question, or they'll give me constructive criticism about it, and I'm not sure I can take that. We have a client who is a superstar who cannot read her performance reviews, despite the fact that they're always 4s or 5s out of 5s. She can't read it because she's so sensitive to criticism. And then the last one is feeling like a fraud. I'm not qualified or competent. I don't know how I got here. I really shouldn't be here. Somehow this must be a mistake. So these are the fingerprints of imposter syndrome, and I think you can see how they relate to confidence. When we resolve these in the work that we do and the work that comes out in my book, if you choose to read it, then go ahead to the next slide. What it reveals is these 5 other traits that we associated with executive presence. So clarity, the ability to say what you mean and mean what you say, and say yes and say no, and be clear about your own wants and needs. The second one is credibility, that actually ability to project that your credibility or competence and have others have trust in you. It's an internal thing. We all know that. We know people can walk in the room and never open their mouth, and you identify them as credible. The third one is confidence, which is projecting a solid sense of self-esteem. We've talked a lot about that. The 4th one is composure. This one is one that we see as the byproduct, sort of the end byproduct, when you get to resolve all of these, because you can walk into a situation that might otherwise be angsty, or there might be conflict, or maybe you don't know that you're going to know the answers to the questions that are going to be posed to you, or whether anybody's going to like what you have to say, and you're still calm and grounded. And then the 5th one is connection, the ability to actually connect with people. And a big part of that is being able to show up and be vulnerable and authentic. And when you start to develop more confidence, more self-esteem on the inside, that's easier. So I'm going to go to the root cause, and then we're going to do a really fun exercise. So go ahead. So when we are in work settings, many of us show up with a reactive identity. What does that mean? It means that we can be triggered by things that happen in the workplace pressures. And this is based on safety patternings, things that we grow up with. So as an example, I just had a good friend of mine have to tell somebody some bad news about a project. And this is a very, very competent person that is just a superstar. And she said to me, I don't even know if I can get this out of my mouth. And we talked about it, and it turns out in her youth, it wasn't okay to deliver bad news. So she has this whole safety pattern that she's had her entire life around not telling bad news. So she'd sugarcoat it, or she'd hide it, she'd sweep it under the rug. So that's one example where your safety patterning, what you learn as a child about what keeps you safe and lovable and what brings you accolades, that affects how you show up. And we're always asking 4 questions, the ones on the left, which is, do I belong? Is it okay to make mistakes? It's a biggie. Do I deserve to be here? And am I competent? Now, how do we determine that? Next click. We look outside of us to external authority to answer those questions. So, and most high achievers are extraordinarily adept at getting incredible amounts of positive feedback from external authority and avoiding at all costs negative feedback, right? Like to the point that they won't try new things that they might not be good at. Anybody relate to that? How about this fail fast thing? How do y'all feel about that? Yeah, that doesn't work really well for a lot of high performers because they are worried about this negative feedback. They've built an identity around getting positive feedback. This is even worse for gifted children. Gifted children grow up gifted. What does that mean? The bar is way up here. If you're gifted, you have to be gifted throughout the rest of your life unless you're able to resolve this. So this is, and it sets up really great performers. And there's a lot of success built around this. But the problem with it, if you click, is that it is exhausting because it leads to these imposter behaviors, which create anxiety and stress and burnout. All right, so what's the solution? The solution is to develop a more resilient identity. We can't change the workplace. We can't change the factors around us. Even the most progressive companies who have the best cultures have pockets within those companies, or there may be moments in your career where even if you're in a safe place, you don't feel safe. So what there is to do is accept the fact that the external authority is going to be there, your corporate culture is going to be there, but let's elevate our internal. You can go ahead and click on that. What about your internal authority? The thing that's completely missing when we are externally performance driven is, what do I think? Is this presentation good enough? Well, I kind of think so. I think it's pretty good. So regardless of what anybody else thinks, do I think it's good enough? Do I think I'm doing a good job? Am I passionate and committed to what I'm doing? Am I making a contribution? This is something that doesn't even get put on the table in many times when we're in an environment in which the external authority looms large. So this is what we do. This is what I take you through in the book, is how do you elevate your internal authority? You really look at what you know to be true. What do you stand for? What are you deserving of? And what are you entitled to? And entitlement is a bad word in our culture, but healthy entitlement is absolutely critical. It is the difference between applying for a job when you think you have 60% versus 100% of the qualifications. I'm entitled to try. I'm entitled to not know how to do something. I'm entitled to make a mistake. Until we develop that level of entitlement, we can't take risks. And that is what there is to do, is really develop this internal authority. The final thing, I'm going to give you an example of this. Go ahead and click, is higher authority. What do I mean by this? It's what's in the highest and best good. Can you click one more time? Thank you. There it is. What's in the highest and best good for everyone involved? I want to give you an example. I had a woman who was working at Amazon Web Services. She was very high up. She reported into a senior VP. She had a large department. She was presenting their annual plan, and they do this in October or something. So her entire team was there. They had worked for months on this, and her boss had said, "We really want something big and bold out of you. Here's an opportunity. We're really bullish about what you're doing. Do something big and bold." So they went off and they thought they developed this really big, bold plan. Very excited about it. Everybody was in the room. There were 20 people in the room, including the general manager of her division. They got through it. She presented it beautifully. Everybody contributed. They were asking questions. And at the very end, the senior most man in the room, who was the general manager, said, you know, Sharon, this is great, but I don't think you're thinking big enough. And you know what happened to her? Womp womp. She literally shut down because that triggered her so much that she went into internal fight, flight, and all she could think about was leaving the room. So it was kind of like meeting adjourned. And by the way, she had already been wondering in this high pressure environment, do I really want to work here? Do I really belong here? And that sealed the deal for her. Oh, see, I don't have what it takes. If I had what it takes, I would have been thinking bigger. She came to me a month after she quit. She quit to take a job at a startup, which was fine, but she did so without ever taking that opportunity. Now, what's in the highest and best good in that moment? When we worked together and went through this and took it step by step, I'll show you a little example of this. What she realized is what was in the highest and best good in that moment was for her to take a breath. I want you all to do this. Take a breath. Find your butt in the seat. You're in a meeting. You just said this. Find your butt in the seat. Feel the weight of your body on the seat. Rub your fingers together. Count backwards from 3 to 1 and ask a question. She could have said, wow, that's so interesting. I'm curious what you mean by that. My team and I worked so hard to push ourselves to think big. I'm dying to know what you see that we didn't see. And you know what that probably would have meant for her? More money, more staff, more budget, a more compelling project. But she couldn't do that because she froze and shut down. Now I'm seeing heads nodding. It's actually heartbreaking, okay? Because we've all been there. I mean, seriously, I am heartbroken for her. And it was heartbreaking to really live that moment and realize that there was an opportunity for her to stay in her body and stay in the room and stay present with her team and find another way through. But that's what happens really when we have this when we're triggered by external authority. So I'd love to do a little brain hack with somebody. And it's painless. There's no surgery involved. I may be confident, but I am not a surgeon. So what I'm looking for is think about, and you can all, by the way, you're all going to benefit from this. So I'm going to take somebody through a process, but think about something that's coming up for you or that you want to do, but you're struggling to have the confidence to do it. So think, and this works best if there's actually something coming up, like if you have to present some of your work to a client in 2 weeks, a really difficult client, and you're nervous about, I'm sorry, am I speaking to you there? So, and to think about a moment, is there anybody that has something coming up that they would love to feel more confident walking into? Come on, Deborah. Come on up, Deborah, thank you. Thank you so much. So everybody in the room is going to benefit from this, from Deborah. And so Deborah, you are a champ. I'm going to try to get on this side of you. I'm going to give you the microphone. We're going to try to. So the first question is, what is it that's coming up?
I present often to a team, and there's one particular person in the room, a male, that is like, you can shoot you down instantly or just fall in love with you. So you never know what mood you're going to get that day. So he's like this.
Oh, that's even worse. Unpredictable, right? If you could count on him shooting you down.
That's easier.
It's easier.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
So we don't know how he's going to react.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a meeting that's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about that meeting, how does it feel?
I always get nervous just not knowing what mood he's going to be in.
Okay.
So.
And when you get nervous, think about yourself about to walk into that meeting. You don't know what mood he's going to be in. Where do you feel it in your body?
Maybe a little hair. I get like antsy.
Okay. Thank you. And what is the voice in your head telling you might happen? Like, what's that little voice you talked about? What is it? The gnat?
The gnat.
The gnat. What's the gnat that's spinning around there saying to you before you're walking in this room?
Other than, God, I hope he's in a decent mood today. Just, I hope I get it all right. I hope I build my case.
I hope I get it right. I hope I build my case. Everybody can relate to this, right? You want an outcome. You want to have this positive outcome. You want to build your case. You want your presentation to be successful. I hope I get it right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a micro lobotomy on you, and we're gonna take out the part of you that even cares, gives a rat's you know what about him, what he thinks. Like, we're gonna take out that part so that it doesn't even exist. Like, you can't conjure that thought if you try really hard.
Mhm.
You can't conjure the thought of what he cares about.
Interesting.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so the Deborah, the lobotomized Deborah, who has the new Deborah, the brain hack Deborah, before she walks in that meeting, she doesn't care. Well, first of all, let's talk about her preparing. Does she prepare any differently?
I don't know. I mean, I over prepare most often, but I'd probably prepare a little bit less freak out, be less like right before, reminding myself about things I didn't really care.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So she's not going to prepare quite as much. She's still going to do good work.
Oh, yeah.
She's got everything else that you've got. Like, so she's not going to go in and
Yeah.
do.
I'm sometimes way over in, looking at things and being a little bit too difficult. So, yeah.
Okay. And when she wakes up in the morning, is her morning any different from that morning?
I guess if I'm, I would probably have more confidence in just other points as well, maybe.
Okay. Would she maybe do a little less prep that morning or less thinking and have more?
Yeah, be a little bit more calm.
Okay, great. Thank you. And right before she walks in that room, what do you notice is most different? You being her,
Mm-hmm.
the calm, grounded, I don't care Deborah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give a rat's what Deborah. Really don't care.
Is that I speak up more without, sometimes I often don't speak up until I absolutely have to. So
you speak up more proactively
Yes.
throughout.
Yeah.
And in service of what?
Just because, I want a certain outcome, and if I don't really care if he's gonna, go this way or that way, then I just build my case when I want to, and I don't wait.
You don't wait. Okay, what does that do with him? Just run that through.
He'd probably respect it.
So when you put that Deborah in,
Mm-hmm.
does anything go terribly, terribly wrong?
Assuming he's in a decent mood, but yeah, no, I think it would go well.
And if he is in one of those bad moods,
Mm-hmm. Just fluff it off, I don't care.
yeah. Okay.
Because I know I did what I needed to do, and I feel confident in that.
Yeah, she knows it's good enough. She knows she did what she needed to do. She built her case, and he had his reaction.
Yeah.
She let him have his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How's that sound? Better? Okay, but here's the question now. Because that the original Deborah is part of what makes you really great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put that new Deborah in 3 months ago, and you go on vacation.
Uh-huh.
You're having tropical drinks with an umbrella and it's by the pool.
Sounds
And
delightful.
she's running through your work life.
Uh-huh.
How does your work life?
As probably more nervous and more quiet until kind of push, and then maybe not getting to all the points I wanted to get to. Yeah.
So if she's in charge, she's No, I'm putting her in charge.
Yeah.
So she's been in charge for 3 months. Has anything gone wrong? Because she has that part of her that doesn't care.
Oh, that doesn't care.
That doesn't care
Uh-huh.
about what the other, when she knows that she's done a really great job.
Yep. Well, yeah, everything's probably much smoother sailing then, I think. Because you're not second guessing, you're not, you just do what you need to do and then move on.
Maybe she has a little more time, a little more downtime.
Yes, maybe some time to actually do some of the things on that other list.
Okay. All right. So I think we see, I mean, this is a simple exercise, but it's really interesting to step out of yourself and into somebody who doesn't even have that thought, right?
Mhm.
Makes you go, whoa, that's weird. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So that example is really what just happened there is that if you go on this slide, what happened is the external authority went like this and her internal authority went like this. It's not that the external authority is gone. She still has this gentleman that she's presenting to. She's just presenting with less, having his reaction have less impact. She's probably not doing any less work, or I mean, she's still doing great work. It's just that she's presenting it and allowing him to have his reaction and not have it affect her in advance. That anticipatory worrying, how many of you are anticipatory worriers? Oh yeah. How many of you have that email thing where you send an email and then somebody doesn't get back to you for a couple days, and the whole time you're going back and reading the email thinking, oh my gosh, what did I say? Did I misspell their name? What did I do? Yeah. And then they get back and go, oh, I'm sorry, my mother-in-law was in the hospital. Yeah. Okay. So this is all stuff that we do where we're overly aware and conscious of the external authority. So that's what this is all about. If you go to the next slide, if you're interested in learning more, those sheets have access for the books, and it comes with a free workbook. The book is Composure. It takes you through, it's like you're sitting on my shoulders. I'm working with coaching clients, and you learn a lot about neuroscience and techniques to actually really balance out this internal and external authority. There's a free workbook. So if you want to take yourself through the program, you can take yourself or teams of people through. It's a 100-page workbook that will guide you through exercises, writing exercises, guiding meditations, etc. And we will be releasing the audiobook on a chapter by chapter basis for free in around September. So if you, the handouts there's a QR code, you can sign up for that and get access to that. And that will be available in September. And also available as an audiobook on Amazon. So anyway, thank you so much.
Do we still have a little bit of time? Yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to do is, that was a lot, right? That you heard a lot about confidence. You learned a lot about how you can sometimes practice this idea of separating yourself from yourself. It really helps if you're a Gemini, by the way, which I am. We have Pam and we have Pamela, and they are not even the same person. So what I'd like to do, though, is kind of think for yourselves a little bit about some of the takeaways. So as you started hearing these things, as you watch people, you talk to your buddy system here and you were learning things, what are some of the key takeaways that you think of that we can walk away with as we think about what we learned today or what we were talking about? Is there anything as you were sitting there thinking about, it's like, I have to remember that when I get back to the office or home for that matter. So anything that kind of stuck in your mind that that you can share with us? Yeah, Sherry. Yeah, so more of an ability. I mean, that really hit me too, that if you're in this moment where you could be something had happened to you where you're going to shut down, the power of inquiry, of just taking a second and then turning that question around, that is huge. That is huge. And if those of you that work in the public realm and you're working in a public meeting and you have people of all ilks coming at you, that is something that is exceedingly powerful to be able to do as a facilitator. But it's really good also with anyone that you're working with. Other kind of takeaways, things you thought about? Yes.
I really like the statement and you figure it out. And I know.
Yeah, I think one of the things that hit me is what you could do with the time that you don't spend doing that. Take a walk, read the book you've been, talk to your husband, whatever. But the idea that time is precious and spending it beating yourself up or overthinking or doing that's, we talk a lot about balance of life, work-life balance for women. And I think that is something that I'd like you to take away is how much of your time are you spending doing something that has zero value for you versus take a walk instead of beating yourself up? Just a thought. Anything from this table? You have that look. Yes.
I also think it's brought it up that when you're, I think it's because I know I'm a woman. I feel like I have to overcompensate and do more above and beyond always. I mean, whether it's your boss or your client, I just always feel like I have to go above and beyond. So trying to take some of these takeaways and never make a mistake. And I'm not competing with men either.
Yeah, the sense that that you have to always go above and beyond is, as we know from statistically, we know that about women. And what would you do with the time? What would you do with your career if you spent it perhaps slightly, shifting away from that?
Can I make a quick comment on
Yeah.
that? I deal with this all the time at all levels of executives I work with. Executive women I work with feel this way always. So if you think about your time of going above and beyond, instead of going above and beyond by overworking, over preparing, doing the above and beyond to build it internally and to show up as confident, because we know from the statistics that confidence is misconstrued with competence. So even if you're not competent, if you're confident, it will be perceived as competence. So if you can do that, and that comes from the inside. We all know that. It's not what you say, it's actually how you show up. So that time you would normally spend, if you can do one thing, that time you would normally spend overworking and over preparing, instead, the power stances, the tips that Kim gave you, building your internal confidence. Really important. Thank you for that.
All right, I'm going to go to this table. Any kind of key takeaways or learning besides you're very, very hot? You're in the spotlight now. Yeah, you're at the sun table now. Credibility. Yeah.
Spend your time on the confidence part. I know I overdo it. I'm always studying, what is the outcome? Instead of confidence side.
Yeah, that was a shock to me too. And I think part of it is the transition from being in school and college to then being in the work world. Because as women, we do really well in school, right? The rules are really clear. We just work hard. We get good grades. We exhibit good character and we graduate, right? In all these professions, graduate degrees, top of our class. But I've seen over and over again, I mean, really great women who succeed in education who aren't able to make that transition to understand how you succeed in the work world. It doesn't mean you abandon your character and your confidence and your hard work, but it does mean you need to be sensitive to these other rules and principles that are now in place. And I think talk about them. So good point.
Okay, we have about 2 more minutes. Yes.
So Pam, when you talk about, so it's not something necessarily I've learned, but I'd like to hear how this would be question. But as executive levels, right, there's so much out there that's like one-on-one, right? If you're building companies that way, why don't women have groups that are getting together and bouncing, like how would you do this, how would you do that? Executive levels, right? I'm just saying it's like that higher level to me is just missing everywhere we want.
I think I often say, and I had to learn this through life, that women can be the best thing that ever happened to you or the worst thing that ever happened to you. I think some women have been harder on me than men. And so I think that we have to build a trust. And I think the word vulnerability came up today. And I think on your way to learning to be an executive, learning to be a leader, learning to have confidence and composure, you have to be vulnerable. And you have to be able to let others in. And you will find that there are people that don't deserve you, that don't deserve to be let in. But you'll also, in that vulnerability, you'll find people that do deserve to be let in and that you can rely on and that you can trust. And that's what really, I mean, it's that you kind of led into this, but that's what the WIA is about. It's not that easy in a work environment to create that, but I think it's possible. Versus out of a work environment, having people be able to feel comfortable, emailing somebody and saying, hey, I'd like to have lunch and just talk to you about, in business plan or future thinking or whatever. And that's what this community is about. In work, it's a little different. And I think what you talked about with that is important.
Yeah, for those of you that have an opportunity to influence leadership, our leaders, our leading organizations have employees. The most important thing you can do is create effective allyship in your organizations. So this little secret we all carry around that we're afraid of criticism or rejection, or we don't really feel like we belong, or we don't think we're entitled to get a promotion, that's a little secret we all carry within us. People around us don't see it. The people who feel entitled and confident don't see it. And so part of it is educating the men and other allies and organizations about making sure they're reaching out and helping those who are coming up understand what they're entitled to and know what they're qualified for and understand that they are qualified for that promotion and they don't need all 100% of the traits and really having those discussions. That's the work that my colleagues and I are doing now in very large organizations to pair high performing up and coming women with primarily men, mixture of men and women who are senior executives who become their allies, who look for opportunities for them. So that's what you can do is bring in this awareness that others around you don't feel that way inside, the way they're showing up. And if you can project that, help them connect with that. And that's why I got where I was in my career, because I had some very powerful men tell me what I was capable of and how much I should be making. And if it weren't for that, I would have left a lot of money on the table.
I think we're wrapping up, and I believe you're going to have some closing comments. But I did want to just thank these two wonderful women for really taking a lifetime to think about how can we help other women build the confidence and the composure that they need to be successful in their business. So I'd just like to take a moment and thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those thanks as well. This has been transformative. Your book, got some deep things. But yeah, thank you everyone for attending. If this event is something that struck a nerve with you, if you feel like you might find camaraderie here, we welcome you to join the Women in Architecture Committee. We meet once a month. We would love to have you. We are open to everyone. And but most of all, thank you for showing up today. Veronica asked me to remind everyone to return their lanyards, and I'm going to do that before I forget. So give Veronica back there your lanyards when you leave. But I also wanted to let everyone know about an opportunity that's coming up. The AIA Silicon Valley is actually the host of the National Women's Leadership Summit this year in the fall. Woo! Yeah. We had a powerhouse group of 5 women who made a successful bid to host the conference. It only happens every 2 years, and it's always in a different part of the country. So we are lucky, lucky, lucky that it is in San Jose in September. I went to the conference in 2019 in Minneapolis, and it was transformative. It's truly the reason I own my own firm today, going to that conference. And so I encourage every single one of you to attend if you can. I encourage you to bring other people from your firms if you can. Pam's giving like 1 million tours and doing half of the conference, I feel like. I think it would be a really great opportunity for every single one of you. So if you're interested in that as well, reach out to me, or you can find it. Registration is wide open now. But if you're interested in being a volunteer, there's a discounted rate. And as a local person, you would be perfectly suited to join us for one of our tours. And I think it's a pretty significant discount. I think it's like 30 or 40%. So you can find me if you're interested in being a volunteer, and I will hook you up with the people who are coordinating the volunteers for that conference as well. But it's going to be a good one. It's at the San Jose Center for Performing Arts over a couple days, right at the end of September, and it's going to be killer. The speaker lineup is insane. But anyway, that's it for our event this evening. I encourage you to connect with each other. I encourage you to stay in touch with us, and thank you again to our amazing speakers. And they're available to speak with you as well. Have a great night, guys. If you guys wouldn't mind, we were hoping to take a group picture of everybody. Could we do that really quick? Group picture in the back here. Come to me.